You're such an asshole.
Hi, kids doing assholeconsulting.com. Anonymous writes, "Hey, asshole, it's the jarhead again. I'd like a rant on reparations, please. I know that both California and the city of Chicago might pass it soon. Well, I don't know how. I think California, that's not going to happen. It's very simple because they don't have a printing press. I mean, they can pass it as like as I don't know, a thing, but it's not going to be funded. Well, no, they could tax their citizenry and they could do it. They could do it, but they just can't print off the money. Let me know how much I owe you. Thanks. Uh, and then we're into that phase again, guys, where I email you back and you guys don't get back to me, and I gotta follow. Hey, did you want to respond? Oh yeah, I want to respond. It's like that's all right. You're a jarhead. I understand you're busy eating crayons, but just pointing it out. So you said yeah, you did want a response, and to be perfectly honest, I don't have much of a rant against it because I don't know what else there is to say about it aside from the fact that it's absurd and whatever else not correct. For I mean, how many ways do you want to paint it? I don't mean to be dismissive of the issue. I just from every logical standpoint, it's stupid. First, there's no slaves today. Second, most of the people here in the United well, there's no slave owners either today. Most of the people, if you want to go with the descendancy argument, most of the people here today that were white anyway, immigrated in the late 1800s and the early 1900s, which was post-slavery. And one that a lot of people, me as an economist and I guess a little bit of a historian, I don't remember the Civil War that was fought about it. Well, there's another one saying, well, all these people died to free slaves. Among other things, I know it wasn't solely about slavery, was civil rights or states' rights issue. But the economy, I don't remember Sherman's March, but the Southern economy was destroyed. So the economy that was built off the backs of slaves, that was destroyed. It's not there anymore. And so it'd be like me claiming, because even though ethnically I did the 23andMe thing, I guess we're mostly Scandinavian. We're not Irish, but the Clary name, and I know the family did come from Ireland. It's just the Vikings had sex with all the Irish girls before, and so it's like you're only really Clary in name. Okay, it would be like me getting upset at the British or the English uh, for quasi enslaving, battling the Irish. Well, I'm looking back, like, how long are you going to carry this? And so there is no guilty parties alive today for slavery. And yeah, I'll just call it all. It's just a money grab. That's all it is. It's just a money grab. Oh, I so don't care anymore. I really don't. It is what it is. I'm used to pointing out the emperor has no clothes. Now, this doesn't mean that there isn't discrimination. That doesn't mean that there shouldn't be laws passed to make sure there's no discrimination. But it falls flat on its face. Like, no. Well, who are you going to go at? What? And then another one, I guess, another argument people hadn't thought about, and I looked into this. It's like, well, wait a minute. What about the welfare state? You know, and I calculated the numbers long ago, and it was somewhere between, don't quote me on it, but it was definitely multiple trillion, somewhere between, I believe it was 6 to 8 or maybe $6 to $10 trillion have been spent disproportionately beyond the proportional representation of the various race groups and all that. But over time, multiple trillions of dollars. Maybe it's up, if you adjust for inflation, because I think I did those numbers 5, 6, 7, maybe even 8 years ago. Let's just call it 10 plus or minus 3, giving a wide berth. Well, what is that then? Where multiple trillions of dollars has been spent above and beyond what would have been proportionally spent on the base population, if everybody was considered, that have gone to the Black community, whether in whatever form that might have been. Welfare, EBT, WIC, all the different social spending that the Black community has consumed beyond their proportional representation. And I would argue that that's reparations, because you say, well, it's to make things fair. Okay, or you could even say the laws, which is not a direct financial transaction, but you have affirmative action more recently than just a mere welfare spending. I'd say, well, wait a minute. Everybody else had to work to pay the extra taxes, to pay a disproportionate draw from the black community on the government checks. Isn't that because wouldn't that qualify to make things fair? Whatever disadvantages may have carried on from generation to generation, whatever structural social issues there may have been post Civil War, post slavery. What about that? And no one seems to be making that argument. And I'm not even necessarily against that in a philosophical. It's like, yeah, it's not like 1865 came along, the Confederacy surrendered, and well, that was that. No, okay, there you go, Jerome. Have fun. Bye. I mean, I understand that. So I'm not even against, God, I hate to sound so not libertarian, but it's okay. There's a disadvantaged group. Maybe you ought to investigate at least why. And then every liberal white woman in Karen comes, it's racism and sexism. No, it's not sexism. It's just, I'm sorry, I confused so many isms. It's just more of white people's money in this particular case. It's like, it doesn't seem to be working. So I'm not necessarily against if there are structural and institutional problems where it's like, hey, we gotta, well, way back in the day, go back in my day. I was very adamant about having anti-nepotism and anti-cronyism laws. Like, if even applying to politicians, like if your parents were politicians, you could not run. Like, so that would end the Bush dynasty. If you're a relative, Bill Clinton was president, Hillary Clinton can't run. Because there is an unfairness, a bias, but it's against everyone, not necessarily blacks or minorities or women, where there was the good old boy network. And if you were, and if President Cappy, guess what? Oh, nice endowments you Ivy League schools have there. That's going to help the federal budget. And you're now banned. There's no more Ivy League. I'd be like, nope, you guys are gone. So maybe I'd be a little bit more populist in that regard. But generally speaking, no, you've already been paid out. Have you been paid an amount? It's impossible to measure, but I'd say multiple trillions of dollars for a population that is about 1/8, 12, 13% of the population over the years, ever since the Great Society. I'd say that's enough. I would even also go so far as to argue that the welfare state, not now, but since its inception, is what has ruined and contributed to disparities between blacks and the rest of the population, not just financially, but also like life expectancy and all these other things. So that would be my argument. And then the final one, let's just talk practicality here. I'm against reparations. Sorry. You've already gotten it. It's nobody's fault alive today. Tragic thing in history. Yeah, it's too bad. Bad things happen to people you never met. It's unfortunate that you are related to them. But there's a piece of me as the macabre, cynical economist that I am, where, okay, it's already been paid out, but I'd almost, from a let's experiment. We've already experimented on the black community enough. Let's be very clear. The black community has been the guinea pigs of the Democrat Party, and to a much more accurate extent, social scientists, particularly liberal white women, who just, you're their little pets, you're their little guinea pigs. And it's this weird, odd fascination. It's like they haven't figured out the magic formula to help out you poor black people. And so I'm like, it's almost a sick sadism. Like, well, let's try this. Let's try drug policy. Let's try this. Like, hey, everything you Karens have done hasn't worked. They're still poor, or not all, of course, but statistically dead last place all the time. What you're doing isn't working. And now you find out, it's just so liberal white people can feel good about themselves while crippling and hurting the black community in effect, in reality. But if I were wicked, if I were evil, and there's a piece of me that is, I would love it. Just like, what the hell? Just what the hell? I'll give you reparations. And the main reason is I just love to see what happens because I don't have kids. I can be very flippant about the future. I don't care what happens to the rest of society. In truth, I think it would be absolutely devastating to the Black community. But let's just cut you a big old check for $10 trillion. Forget how you're going to implement. What about a mixed race kid? How do you calculate? What are you going to do? How? Do we include immigrants? Do we include everybody from Somalia? How do you do it? Forget all that. But I'd say for shits and giggles, let's just do it. Because I think what's going to happen, what is it? I think what will happen is what happens to most NBA players. NBA. 2/3. 65% of NBA players go broke within the first 5 years of retirement. I almost predict to you that is exactly what would happen to the Black community. We'd give you your reparations check, and you ain't getting no millions of dollars each. Well, maybe it'd add up to that. How many? Well, let's do the math. Let's say we did a cool 10 trillion. That's if the calculate. God, my computer sucks. Okay, 10 trillion. That's 10,000. 1, 2, 3 million. 1, 2, 3 billion. 1, 2, 3 trillion. Divided by. God, what is the Black community? Black is 13% of the population. I got to pull up another calculator. All right. Oh, did that wrong. Let's back up. 0.13. No, not 0.31. 0.13 times 320 million. That's 41.6 million. So 10 trillion divided by 40. Let's call it 42 million. 1, 2, 3,000. 1, 2, 3 million equals. You get $238,000 a piece. Okay, so each fully Black individual within the United States of America, we get 250,000. President Cappy is a benevolent Cappy. $250,000 for everyone. It would be $250,000. It would be gone in a year. The average recipient of reparations would have the $250,000 check gone in a year. And if you permit me to be so bold and blunt, you'd piss it away on dumb shit. I don't see people squirreling now. See, that have an effect on the financial markets. If you were going to do it right, if we were going to do it, that $250,000 would be invested in a fund, a retirement fund. That would be the way. Because I'm sorry, giving it to how many caddies would be out there? Dumbass grills and teeth. Lord knows what you would piss away your money on. Right? This is to accuse all Black people. And piss away. I'm sure some of you be very astute with your money. But if you really want it, I would say you throw that into like a retirement fund that'd be diversified across a portfolio of assets. Because if you just threw it in the S&P 500 stock, that would jack up the stock prices and throw the financial, it'd be gone. Or it wouldn't be gone. It would mess with the fight. So it'd have to be diversified. Or free education might be another way. If it was a STEM or trade, something that would actually help the Black community. Not you can major in African. Here's your $100,000 to major in African American history and be unemployable after 4 years and squandering it. So there could be something, maybe even housing. You'd have to go build housing. There'd be other ways to make sure it would actually tangibly help the Black community. But barring that, I'm afraid it would just be pissed away. And within a year, no more than 3, what would end up happening is the Black community would be back to square one. And all that money would have just been made by everybody else. It would have. I mean, I don't know. The car dealerships, I'm sure, would have a heyday. Clothiers. I honestly don't know what the Black community spends their money on. I can't imagine it be much different if you just gave everybody $250,000. I'm sure a lot of dumbass shit would be bought. People wouldn't throw their money into the retirement. I mean, heck, forget NBA players. Look at people. Maybe I should look that up too. What happens when you win the lottery? I'm sure most people buy the dumbest crap. And so from a macabre, let's experiment on humans type of angle, like, yeah, what would happen if we just what's it gonna cost? Everyone gets a $250,000 check. Everybody pisses away their money. It ends up back in the economy. And now we just what the consequence, unfortunately, the consequence would be, well, we did the same thing with the millennial generation. There's been not reparations exactly, but there was an instance where we printed off all this money to help out young people, millennials. It was started under Obama. It really kicked into gear under Trump with the COVID. But there was an instance in time where we just octupled the money supply, and we gave it all away. Obama gave it away in all these social programs, and particularly helping out young kids with college. Trump just gave it away. I know you all think Trump is like this evil, hate-filled, right-wing Republican. He's the most Democrat Republican we've ever had since, if you look at the numbers, just gave you checks. FDR creamed his pants, even though he's been dead a long-ass time. He's like, oh my God, that guy. What happened? Surprise, inflation, and now nobody can afford rent or housing. That's how inflation works. So there would be inflation, a lot of it, $10 trillion. Although that's not more than what we print. Hang on. How much did we print off? Maybe we should, just for shits and giggles, print off money. Why the hell not? Hang on. Hang on. 5.2 trillion. 5.2 trillion. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That was COVID relief. If we add it all up, it's 13 trillion. 13 trillion. All right. So not dollar for dollar. Okay, so there'd be slightly less inflation. Let's say 10 trillion is the reparations amount. Okay, we talked to Jesse Jackson if his corpse is still alive. We talked to all the leaders within the black community. Say, is $250,000 a piece all okay? All right, sign here. You never complain and bitch and whine ever again. Oh my God, President Cappy is the greatest president ever. Well, then don't be surprised if you have 8 to 12% inflation a year. And that's just the CPI. Talk about housing. That's gone up. What? Housing is easily cost of living for just lodging alone, which is your largest expense. That's more than doubled pretty much universally. I'm surprised young people can't afford housing. Wonder how that works. Despite all of them having a course or two in college economics, which I don't know, you guys didn't pay attention. So what would end up happening, and then here's where, if it ever happens, if you happen to be black, please listen to me, please. Okay. If you get reparations, my team, okay, my guys, I got a lot of young black men that tune into this show. If you ever get a reparations check, swear to God, don't piss it away. You throw that shit into a diversified portfolio of real estates and stocks, okay? And not because it's going to grow and your purchasing power is going to be amazing. That's just a hedge against the inflation that's guaranteed to come. So you go buy all the large corporation stocks in the large corporation in the United States, the S&P 500. Meanwhile, all the other your black brothers and sisters are buying all the other stuff. They're pissing away their money. That money goes right to the companies that you now own shares in. That's how you would and that ain't even guaranteeing you're making a profit. That's just you hedge against inflation. And then when the money starts to circulate and permeate throughout all the economy, all of a sudden, surprise, costs go up. And the black community is the poorest community within the United States, the most disadvantaged. That is true. And inflation hurts it hurts poor people the most because they can't afford it. I remember that's how I got into motorcycle riding. I couldn't afford gas. There was like this big spike in gas prices like 2004, 2005. Gas hurts. Now, the rich people out in Edina and Minnetonka and Wayzata and Winnetka and Martha's Vineyard and all these other pompous ass, Cherry Hill, all these other, they didn't know $4 a gallon gas. They didn't care. They're making $100,000 a year. I was making 40, and that bit into my budget. And therefore, did we permanently solve the black community's problem? No, we did not. But it felt good. And all we did was more or less cement further poverty for future generations of Black people. Whereas if you take an investment approach with the reparations, where it's like, okay, here's a house, or here's a portfolio of real estate investment trusts and S&P 500. There's going to be consequences. There's going to be consequences no matter what you do. You get to go to school. The next 4 generations of your children get to go to school for free, although managing that would be a pain in the ass. Then it's over. Because if you just keep printing off more money, you're just going to have more inflation. You're going to undo whatever goodwill or intentions you might have had. But that would be if I was a wicked, curious, diabolical doctor, evil, mad social scientist. Like, what would happen if we just... Oh, gas at $12 a gallon. They can't afford eggs. But look, you want to help out anyone, period. The Black community in this particular conversation, you want to help out anyone, you got to start telling people the truth. You got to stop lying to people. That's how simple it is. I'll give you an example. Ladies, you want to close the wage gap between men and women? Stop majoring in dumb shit and work as many hours as men. That's it. 95% of the wage gap goes away, and the little bit of 5% is because women are not as aggressive in negotiating salaries, which you could train and take courses on and close that gap. But it's not, oh, you're oppressed by the evil males and the patriarchy. No, you girls disproportionately major in really stupid things. You go into debt to do so. You don't work as many hours, and that's why you make less. And the question is, do we want to help out women, or do we want to make them feel good? And then when you tell women, hey, it's going to require hard work and majoring in STEM and engineering and not and working more, and you're like, you're misogynist. You're a misogynist. No, I'm not. I'm actually trying to help you. I'm just telling you a solution you don't want to hear, which is the only solution. Same thing with the Black community. And you guys regularly, you all know the solution, because it isn't like, oh, there's Black community has these unique problems that need to be solved with unique answers. No, poverty is universal. It's the same. So don't major in dumb stuff. Don't have kids you can't afford. Spend less than you make, and don't commit crime. That's it. It's not like the white guy out in Wyoming. Like it's a mystery why he's poor. It's like, well, you had more kids that you could afford because you got your girlfriend pregnant in high school. I believe it's the Trona County High School, half the girls get pregnant before they graduate. You didn't major in anything worthwhile. You're doing meth, you keep running in trouble with the law. And I forgot what the fourth one was. Wow, it's a shock you're living in a trailer park with no electricity. And so it's universal. So link below, you don't believe me, link below, I have my book, The Black Man's Guide Out of Poverty. You want to get out of look, and I do believe black men are sick and tired of being poor. Black women, that's a different thing. They're wedded to the government. They love the government more, and it shows. I mean, the contempt they have, generally speaking, for their fellow black men is appalling. So I don't try to sell or convince black women of anything. But I believe black men are sick and tired of being poor. And they are so sick of it that they're starting to entertain a more empirical, practical solution where it's like, this ain't working. I mean, we're on third, fourth, fifth, maybe even sixth generation, depending on how many people had sex at what time, of poor black people since the Great Society started. And I think the latest guys that are up to bat are like, no, I'm changing my batting stance. I'm going to change different strategy. I'm getting sick and tired of getting struck out. And so I see a lot more young black men leaning towards, I don't want to say conservative Republican politics, but definitely not the Democrat talking points. I think they're sick and tired of the woe is us, oh, the evil white man, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, no, I'm majoring in engineering. I'm going to major in accounting. I'm going to become a tradesman. you're like, I don't want to be poor anymore. Maybe they've done the math, realized mom had 5 different kids from 6 different fathers, and they did the per capita calculation. Said, hey, wait a minute. I think also, generally speaking, women have become rather hostile to men across all races, but within the Black community, in this example, where you're like, geez, what the hell did we do? Lady, I just got here. I'm 23. What the hell's going on? And they're just like, yeah. And then you got the internet, like where there's alternative ideas. Like, think about the Democrat Party in the 1970s and 1980s. They controlled everything, the media, the schools. So if you were Southside Chicago, you're in the schools, you're within the community. You only heard what the community and the schools and the Chicago public schools wanted you to hear. Now you could tune into Fresh and Fit. Well, I got the shirt on. You could tune into any one of a number. It doesn't even have to be a podcast hosted by Black men. It's just, yeah, man. I mean, Fresh and Fit are not Democrats, if you were wondering. And they're like, yeah, I want to make money. I want to, I don't want to be poor. And the other thing, and this is where it gets to be a bit more practical, is, and again, I'll speak directly to Black men. Look, do you want to wait around for reparations? Do you want to wait for the Republicans and Democrats to get their act together to say, yeah, we're going to approve it? That could be 2-3 generations from now. Do you want to wait that long? Or do you want to take action now so it doesn't matter whether or not you get reparations? Would you like to make it where you make a good money, you have a life, you're not dependent upon whether someone... I always found that very sad, where so many people, not just psychologically or emotionally, were so vested in one person getting elected. You can make that criticism on especially, I was going to say Republicans, but especially Trump supporters, where you're so emotionally invested. But to be financially invested in one party getting in or not, I've never had that situation. Whether it was a Democrat or Republican in office, it never mattered. Like, my finances were more or less the same. Democrats obviously want to take a little bit more of my money. But I've never been in that position like, geez, I really hope Joe Blow gets elected so he could give me more of other people's money. And I'm trying to bring up the point that since that is outside of your control and it really is up in the air, for the here and now, you might as well take measures and actions that there's no such thing as guarantee, but drastically increase your statistical chances of being successful, which is why I'm such an advocate of, if you're going to go to college, major in the right thing. And for an increasing number of people, don't even bother going to college. Go become a truck driver, go trade schools. Nuclear Cadillo, check out his page. He's a young Black man, or youngish. He's almost 30. He went into the Navy to become a nuke, which, if you don't know, he makes sure the ship don't blow up. That's basically, he makes sure the nuclear reactor doesn't blow up the ship and all the other ships in the fleet for a 5-mile radius. He's a nuclear engineer, basically, in the Navy. And those guys make good money. They make good money. So you go into the trades, but that's where it's something you can do. It's something practical. And more importantly, what you don't do. Don't go with the 4 rules I said of don't do. And that, whether or not you get reparations or not, following that advice, taking matters into your own hands and making some key and critical decisions. Not a lot, just some key and critical ones. Like, I had a vasectomy. Why? Because I didn't want to get no girl pregnant. You damn right that saved my ass many times. That damn sure kept me out of poverty. Oops, I'm pregnant. Well, it ain't me. It ain't me. Somebody else. I better get an STD test now that I think about it. That's my argument, and that's linked down below. That's one of the topics in the book I have linked down below. So for now, since it's out of our control, and Black men, whether you get reparations or not, okay, fine. That's something to deal with when the time comes. All right. But that does not mean like, okay, now I sit on my ass and beg and plead and pray to the Democrat gods that they get this passed. I would be like, well, okay, that might be nice, but in the meantime, I'm going to go become an accountant. I'm going to go join the military, get the GI Bill, and have them pay me to become a welder or something. Maybe I like the military. I'm going to stay there. So there you go. But yeah, I would love to see what would happen. Just, go ahead, print it off, see what happens. And I guarantee you the answer would be inflation. And sadly, because no one's telling black people the truth, nothing would really change. And sadly, the black community would still, I forecast, be dead last place. Gary Mercado, our New York agent in the field. Another issue that these folks don't think about is who would administer doling out this magical stash of money. The evil pale folks. Second and third level effects are never enforced into these people's ideas. Right. And how do you pay it out? Because, let's say you're an eighth black. Does everyone got to get a DNA test? Do I have to go in and show you? And then what about recent African immigrants? Are you, do they qualify? And it wouldn't, and I would insist, like, if we're paying reparations, you never get to complain again. And also attached to be like, that's the end of affirmative action. That's the end of preferential hiring. That's the end of scholarships. Like, no, everything's back to all. There is no, like, I would ban the use of the word race, while those sex would make an argument they need reparations. I would just like, no, it's gone. We don't even talk about it. Second, third, yeah. So the implementation is another practical question you rightly bring up there, Gary. Drew, $2. What's next? Credit card and mortgage balance? Yeah, but that stuff would have to go away. I'm like, no, that's it. No. You're not allowed to ask people their race. Like a truly raceless society. Like, you're not allowed to inquire, poll. It doesn't matter anymore. It does not matter. That's a human being. Period. Jorge S., $5, paying my reparations for being a Gen Z joke, and Claire always yelling at me for almost majoring in history. I prevented you from that, huh? Vlad Elkham's in the house. Jorge S. again, $5, paying my reparations for being. Did you donated twice, Jorge? And almost majoring in fluffy bunny studies. Well, I'm glad you didn't major in fluffy bunny studies. Drew, $2. They are proposing rent control here. I'm angry. Well, do you own property? Are you a landlord? If you're not, don't worry. Just leave. You can leave. And where's here? Where's here? Is that Ireland? They did that. How did I? Hang on. Let me go up here. I missed them all. Okay, there we go. Alex Patino, truck driving Latino agent in the field. When Hernan Cortez came to Mexico in 1519, he brought close to 400 Spaniards. The question, how did he topple an empire with millions? Did you know the Aztecs were surrounded by people who hated them? Yeah, there was a great podcast. It was called The History of Mexico. And he started with Cortez and ended when Cortez conquered the Incans. He didn't go on after. And I was like, what? Bring me up to now. But I am familiar with that. Obviously because of technology and metal, but Cortez also rallied, because what happened is the Aztecs would enslave or go and raid other villages and other tribes to make sacrifices. If you saw Apocalypto, it's kind of gives you an idea. But so that allowed him to rally all these other tribes to help him and go in front. And I forgot what they were called. Not jaguars. They called them something else. And that's one of the reasons that Cortez was able to wipe them out. And let's not forget smallpox. The disease definitely probably did more than the sword. Mr. Big Wheel, $5. How about reparations for the over 1 million people who died from COVID from the United States that funded the lab where the virus started? Well, why not? Why not reparations for any Irish people, those in the United States or in Ireland, that the English did? Why not reparations for the Tartars taking over then southern Novgorod, which is a town, Russia, I mean? Why not reparations for all the people, the Mongols? It doesn't end. It just doesn't end. But sadly, what you have to admit is bad things happen in the past. Different place, but every inch of this world has been conquered 2 or 3 or 4 times over. And you got to get over it and move on with your life, because if you don't, your one little blip of an existence of life is going to be sitting there bitching and whining for a bailout. I'm wondering how many, not that I don't picture elderly black women sitting there like, I need my bailout money. But I saw this with babysitters and old women where they just sat and let their lives waste away watching soap operas. Are there black women that are old and just waiting for the day? And even then I could see, because they were back during the Jim Crow days. How many of them just, white men are whites and, not white males, but, other people. Lady, I was 80 years of just pissing and being pissed. And now it's over. And you got to die in your cat hair chair watching. I don't even think we got soap operas anymore, do we? Alex Patino, truck driving Latino agent in the field. The Aztecs demanded tribute, especially sacrifices to gods in human form, so those people became allies with Cortez, and the rest is history. Yeah. Well, you think I did go to the public schools, but I did educate myself through podcasts. Alex Patino again, $5. Did you know that when Francisco Pizarro, this is in South America, am I right? Marched into Peru today. Look at Cappy. Listen to podcasts. Thank you, everybody. He only had 16 Spaniards with him. The rest of his soldiers were Otomi or Aztec. Okay, cool. Didn't he have to go down the Amazon or something like that? Those Spanish explorers, holy balls, Batman. Good or bad, the stuff they did, my goodness. And I'm 18% Spaniard, I'll have you know. Feel like conquering some people. Bob, $2. Dave Chappelle made a skit about that. Well, a skit about what? What did I say? Bob, $2. I'll be glad if black will be exempt to pay taxes. The government will. Oh, dude, Bob, I thank you very much. You just made me realize something. I'm to the black community. Look, here's your $250,000, but you know what? Your Democrat, that dick in your mouth, the Democrat Party. They're going to pull it out. They're going to give you $250,000. They're going to take the dick and they're going to hit you right in the face, and we're going to tax that at 50%. They'll tax it. They will. You only get $125,000. I guarantee you they will. They absolutely will. They would tax it just like, they tax the lottery, don't they? I could do that as benevolent, lovable President Cappy. I would say we're giving you $250,000 each, and with Democrat tax rates, and here's your $135,000 check. We're going to vote Democrat. Well, fine. They'll tax you at 80%. I don't care. Drew, $2. This is student loan bail. It's a form of reparations. Not really, because it doesn't go specifically to black people. You could say it's a generational form of reparations because the millennials were effed over. They were totally lied to by their boomers, boomer parents and boomer professors. The reason I'm against the reparation, for example, let me point out, there is an argument for reparations for the black community because it wasn't like they volunteered to be slaves. They didn't have a choice in the matter. It was like, hey, you're coming with us, and hey, you got to sit in those fields. The millennials didn't have to go to college. And I don't believe slaves were sanctimonious and holier than thou. The millennials absolutely were. And they, at the ripe old age of 22, acted like they knew everything and they were going to run the world so much better. And how dare you? And blah, 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 blah. And here they all, now these know-it-alls need a bailout. So because they were arrogant, sanctimonious, and above all else, stupid for majoring in dumb crap, and it was their choice, and they signed on the dotted line, F them. Too bad. I guess you learned your lesson. So generationally, defined using generations, yes, you could say it's a form of reparations. Sorry, kids, we lied to you. But they took all their money and they basically had fun. They got to jerk off of how imaginarily intelligent they were, sitting there at college thinking studying political science made them somehow smart or wise. So I don't know. I think they all need a kick in the nuts. I couldn't care less. I'll tell you this. If I had to choose reparations to the black community, reparations to student loan bailout, reparations to the black community. Ethically speaking, not on dollar volume. Gary Mercado, $20. Another issue that these folks don't think about is who would administer it. Oh, okay, yeah. So now we're back caught up. I didn't miss everybody's super chat. Sorry about that. Drew, Denver, and yes, I own. I get out, Drew. Get out, Drew. As a former landlord, sell your property and get out of Colorado, or go to at least the frontier side of Colorado. Get out of Denver. Denver's best days are behind him. I would leave Denver. Jorge, $2. I now work as a doctor and can't wait to pay for that. I'm sorry, Jorge. You work so hard. No, half your money is gonna go and pay for it. Jorge, though, don't worry. You'll just charge more in premiums. And that's the final note I guess I'll make on this. Look, not even consciously, but companies, landlords, car company. Well, you think reparation passes and General Motors ain't going to start jacking up the prices on their cars already? You think the auto manufacturers ain't immediately pricing their cars 25% more expensive? You don't think that's going to happen? You don't think I'm trying to think Lizzo ain't going to double her ticket price sales? Although I don't know any black dudes who go see Lizzo. I know, but you can't help but see her. She's so freaking huge. Like, oh, there she is, 300 miles away. It's like Mount Vesuvius. All right, there it is. So link below. Take a look at that book. It's written for black men. Black ladies, you could get something out of it, but I've never had a black woman listen to anything I've said. But if you happen to be a young black man or a middle-aged, but you just happen to be a black guy in general, and you don't want to be poor anymore, consider getting that book below. That's it. We'll see you guys later. Toodles.